We're going to start now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get you to start, and I'm going to get you to say your name, your rank, what course you were on, how old you were when you went in, and how old you are now, and then your journey from knowing you were going onwards. So you just go ahead and just chat and look straight at me, and we'll sally forth.
Sorry, real quick, Ann.
Am I in the way?
Yeah, so just make sure.
You ready?
Okay, I can't move, that's what he said.
Yeah, my name is Len Worsdell. I was living in the village in Cranbourne in Wiltshire when the war broke out. And because of that, I had to leave school at the age of 14. Anyway, I came up to, I was working in the close in Salisbury Cathedral when I saw a Spitfire fly over. I thought, I'm going to fly one of those. So I joined the ATC, and I was about 17, something like that. I joined the ATC, became a sergeant in the ATC. I obviously volunteered, and in, I think it was November when I was 18 and a quarter, I joined the RAF. I was enlisted to join the RAF. I had previously volunteered, but you can't volunteer and go in. They'll call for you when they want you. They wanted me at the end of 1943. I think it's November 43. Anyway, I joined the RAF. I met a friend of mine on the station at Southampton, and we became friends ever since. First time I saw him. Anyway, we went up to London, had preliminary tests. We used to eat in the, what's it called? Where all the animals are kept. Anyway, excuse me, but my memory is a bit poor at times. Anyway, we used to go there for meals, and we used to have to pass through a passageway with a big stanchion in the middle, and every now and then you're in a crack. There's a cup, because you carried your own cup, and they were broken. So cups became very valuable. Anyway, I joined the RAF and was sent to I was sent off on an educational course for 6 months because I left school at 14. So I spent 6 months on this educational course. Then I came back to, I believe it was back to what's the name of anyway, back to London, because I used to spend my free time, watching these V1s come over. I used to watch them, and as they come over, they used to, which on working at nights, and they used to come over, and occasionally they stop, and then and you ducked, wait, heard the explosion, and went on carrying on. Anyway, from there I went to Torquay, and I can't give you dates. I joined, and I had 2 days of tests, memory tests, educational tests, and flying tests. I had photographs, and you had to identify which part of a plan was on that photograph, that sort of thing. Anyway, after 2 days, I qualified, or I came out as a sergeant, as a pilot, bomb aimer. From there we went on to, we then joined as a group of us, and we went on several ITWs, that's initial training wings, where you do preliminary training. We ended up, we went to Stormy Down, which closed us down. We went up to Shropshire. I can't remember the name, but I could tell you with a bit of research. And from there, there was quite a few people waiting to qualify as pilots. So we went to, I went eventually to Manchester to Heaton Park. And in Heaton Park, we were then eventually allocated, we were told that we were going to go to America. And we were then sent up to Scotland and took the Aquitania out of Scotland across to America. They chose the Aquitania because it was so fast. The U-boats couldn't keep up with them. The U-boats were ideal for slow-moving convoys, but not for big ships like ours. So once we cleared, we were all right. If I remember rightly, we were in a hold at the very bottom, and every week the highlight of the day was to come up on deck and to feel the fresh air, because the place was full of Americans who had injuries. Anyway, we flew into America, and I believe then we went just into Canada. As I say, I can't remember offhand the name, but I could do with a bit of time. And then we joined a railway. Sorry about that. Anyway, we joined this railway, and we went from just into Canada down through America. I just about went into Mexico, just about, and up into Arizona. And that's when we were told that we were going to learn to fly in Arizona and learn to fly. And there were several flights and places where in America that trained pilots. There was about 3 or 4, I believe, in Texas, one in Florida, etc. Anyway, that's when I became a member of course 27, which was the very last course. And the war, well, I believe VJ Day occurred when I was in America. Though they, I can't remember anything about it. And anyway, whilst I was there, I did my preliminary training on Stearmans, which are fixed two-winged planes, and they're like Tiger Moth, but 10 times stronger. I remember I forgot to tell you that when I was in England, I did about 12 hours flying Tiger Moths. I had to qualify, or satisfy them, I was able to fly a plane. And that's before I started my ITW work. Anyway, the Stearman is a very good plane, and I qualified in that. And there are some photographs, I believe. I was on the 4th group for my particular, 27 was formed into 4 groups, and I was on the 4th group. I need a bit of time to remember. I'll tell you, or my flying book will tell you the name of the instructor. Anyway, I qualified. Well, I passed my Stearman. How I did, I don't know. No one told me. And we then went on to Stearman's. I believe we were there on the lease lend principle, because once the VJ Day came, they stopped our training on 86s, which was like a Harvard. It's called the Texas Ranger, I think. Anyway, it's like a Harvard. And I stayed on it long enough to fly it, be able to fly it. I had about 12 hours, something like that, 10, 12 hours. And then the VJ came, and then once VJ came, they decided to close all the various flying training places, and they closed down Mesa, Arizona. That's where we were. Mesa, just outside Phoenix. And I remember when we had time off, my friend and I used to thumb our way into Phoenix. We were about half a mile away from Phoenix. But I think since then, Phoenix has expanded to take over Mesa, which was, we're on the edge of, we were in Mesa. And anyway, I was allowed to fly. They said, well, go and take a flight for a few days. And we used to go out and fly around, chase Indian ponies and things like that, things you should never do. But, I mean, in those days, nothing really mattered. I mean, you did what you were told to do. And in no case were you ever frightened. Though I do remember in an 86, I had to come in and fly. I was out flying, coming in, and for some reason I couldn't. Why, I don't know, I just couldn't land. And I thought I had visions of myself in a crashed aircraft somewhere. And eventually I thought, well, come on, take hold of yourself. Ease up and go down. I did a wheel landing. We were trained to do a 3-point landing. That's the 2 wheels and the tail, landing at the same time. Just effectively fly in a stall. That's how I used to fly. And anyway, I did it, I landed. And so they closed the school down, and they sent us, put us on a train. We went back the way we came, all the way through Arizona, up into Canada, begins with K. It's, I had time to remember. Anyway, I went in there, and they then gave us 7 days free. So my friend and I went into Manhattan, in New York, where I got a cousin living. Anyway, in New York, and we used to exist in New York on no more than about $6, and we did it by a little bit of religion, and go to a place, a little bit of religion, have a breakfast, you see. Go somewhere else, a little bit more religion, have a lunch, and etc. And used to go into a service place. We got a bed for about about 50 pence, 50 cents. Anyway, we lasted there a whole week for about 7 days, and for about $7. Anyway, we flew back. He took us back to New York, and we came back on the Queen Elizabeth. That's a lovely plane, lovely ship. And we came back into America. I was then sent to various various places, airdromes, to help out. I mean, in one of them, I remember being in charge of a group of Italian prisoners of war. They gave me a rifle, but no bullets. So I had a rifle and no bullets. So God used to help me if they decided to Anyway, they were very obedient. They were Italian. They were all used to work in the fields, and we just went there and just nominally in charge, but we didn't really need us. But anyway, and then we went from there on to ITWs, not ITWs, sorry, SFTSs, Senior Flying Training Schools. And I went to Snitterfield, and it was near Shakespeare Land, I remember that. And after I had to sign on for 3 years to get my wings. I couldn't get my wings. They wouldn't let me travel on unless I signed on for 3 years, which I did. And that's when I came back from America. And I went to Snitterfield, started flying, and the first instructor was known as, was the man who in America used to go to whenever they felt that you weren't up to qualifying. I can't remember the expression. Anyway, they closed that down and we went to Church Lawford. Both those places no longer exist. And I qualified at Church Lawford. All the people, with about 2 or 3 exceptions, were all from, I think, either Belgium or one of the Low Countries. And I know in the intermediate I came top, which I thought was good. But what I'm afraid took a lot of influence, a lot of enthusiasm out, was the fact that the RAF used to give 2 commissions for every flight, every trainee flight. And there were 30 on a trainee flight. And halfway through, we were joined by an Air Commodore's son and a Brigadier General's son. Well, I got no complaint about Brigadier General's son. He was good first class, he's the right size. But the Air Commodore's son was 6'7". Well, my friend, who I joined up with, couldn't become a pilot, or couldn't train as a pilot because he was too tall, he's 6'4". You know, so I knew then at the end of when we qualified, that the 2 commissions would go to the Air Commodore's son and the Brigadier's son. So I'm very disillusioned. I stayed at Church Lawford, just really being a bit of a nuisance. I qualified. At that time, the RAF, for some disastrous reason, had decided that all non-commissioned pilots or aircrew were to have a qualification. And so instead of being, I was a sergeant with my stripes, I qualified as a P4, which was a way of describing the initially people that joined up. So initially people who qualified and then went on. You used to have a pilot 1, 2, 3, 4 and the master pilot. And the other way around, 4, 3, 2, 1 and the master pilot. That was the idea. That only lasted about 6 months. But unfortunately I came right in the middle of that. So throughout, and then on the DMOB, I was a pilot 4, P4. Anyway, I still had my stripes, and I ate in the sergeant's mess. I used to spend my time, they used to send me out to check on aircraft, see whether they were suitable for night flying. And I remember I was a bit of a renegade, and I remember several times I took up, used those flights to take up non-commissioned people from the ordinary aircraftmen to see what it's like to fly. And one of them, the canopy came loose and started fluttering around just in front of this pilot. Because the aircraftman was in the front bit, I was in the back. And I remember I very gingerly went round and landed, and he went off, and no one ever knew. I just reported that the canopy became loose, and I presumably fixed. Anyway, I qualified in the end of '96. I did spend some time doing nothing while they were deciding what to do with me. Anyway, I qualified. Well, like say you qualified. I became a pilot, and I think it's November '46. And then I waited till about October '47, and I am still there. So I'm complained rather bitterly, and they sent me off to West Wittering to a squadron of mosquitoes, and I went there. I think it was 86 Squadron. I think it was 86. My things will tell me, and I there then I decided that the RAF was not for me. So I managed to get onto a training course in Maidstone for a few months, and it was during that time I think Princess Elizabeth was married, and in '48, eventually about April '48, I came out with a very small majority, as I joined up for 3 years, with a small gratuity of I think it's £47 or something like that. And then that's the end of my RAF. After that, I don't know whether you want me to go on about, because it doesn't affect Falcon Field. That's all I can remember of Falcon Field.
You could go on to say about how you trained to be a solicitor.
Yeah, well, I left I lived then in Romsey, in Wiltshire, Hampshire, and I got a job. You could always get a job in those days, and I got a job as a clerk in Southampton Rubber Company, and after about a year, I got a job. I see a job advertised, a shorthand typist of all things, and in Lymington with Welworthies. It was the Alfin people. It was the aluminium fins. They were put onto cast iron bodies, which went up and down in the engine. Anyway, I was a shorthand typist there, a bit disastrous, but I managed it. I got a place where they took me in, bed and breakfast, evening meal, and and 2 years later, I got married. I was, and when I was married, I lived in Woolston, Southampton. I used to go across on the ferry, take the bus up to Shirley, and pick up somebody who then who worked in Lymington, and he used to take me there and bring me back. And anyway, in 1952, I saw a job advertised in the Southern Electricity Board in Southampton, so I applied for that and got it. And in the meantime, I was studying, doing a postal course for chartered secretaries. Anyway, I qualified as that. Well, it's corporate secretaries in those days. I qualified, and I worked in the Southern Electricity Board. I got a job. I applied for a vacancy of administrative assistant and got it, and Southampton, and which wasn't the job it used to be when at that time, they were part of the North Thames, Electricity Board. Electricity Board. Anyway, they used to have a scholarship. The Electricity Board had a scholarship of about 10 people for a period of, about 10 years, I suppose. I noticed that the first few people, about 3 of them, first 3 scholarships, there were 10 scholarships each year. They all went to engineers. I thought, well, they must at some time go on to admin. So I thought this may be the right time to apply, because I was qualified as a as a corporate secretary, and working for the Electricity Board. Anyway.
Hold on a minute. Sorry, it's the ice cream truck. Okay, go ahead.
So I applied for a scholarship and got it. And I was the first administrative person to win a scholarship for the Southern Electricity Board. Anyway, I went to Southampton University for 3 years, and I came out, and I then was transferred to the headquarters of the Southern Electricity Board near Maidenhead, and after 6 months they said, did I want articles? I said yes, so they gave me articles, and then in 1963 I qualified as a solicitor with honours, incidentally. Once I'll put that down. They used to give every solicitor who qualified, for every student, you had a student of the year, and then you had the honours, and then you had the ordinary. Well, I was one of the honours, which I must admit, a bit of a surprise to my friends. Anyway, I was about 2 or 3 years as assistant solicitor with the Southern Electricity Board. Well, they were putting up with me really, and I used to do all the court work and odds. And I saw a job advertised in the North Thames Gas Board in London. I didn't want to work in London, but eventually they persuaded me to. I applied and I said no, and eventually they persuaded me to join. So I joined there as assistant solicitor to the Southern Electricity Board, to the North Thames Gas Board, and I was at that time they were converting natural town gas into natural gas, and also laying all the big pipelines from Shoeburyness all the way north and south through Fulmer, various places, and I was involved in all that, which was interesting, and I realised afterwards it was quite an important job, but I just took it as part of the work. And then I think in 1972, they'd finished the natural gas and the pipelines. And I'm not a corporate lawyer. I never agreed to do, because when I was in the electricity board, I had made a rule that if anybody, no matter who it is, had a problem, they could always ring me. And I solved several problems that way. Whereas before, you used to have to write in and you used to give to the solicitor, who 2 days later gave an answer. Well, you couldn't do that. So I became a very practical, down-to-earth lawyer, which I think was beneficial. And anyway, in 1972, I decided I had enough. So I gave a notice in, 3 months' notice. I spent almost 3 months training my successor. And I tried for a job. There was a solicitor had an office in Derwent Avenue, Ickenham. Well, I applied for him, he said no. And then he rang me up and said yes. And I joined him. We became partners. And I know my first year, I produced, I think, about £14,000 worth of profits, which was negligible, bearing in having to pay the cost of the staff and the rent and various things. Anyway, after a while, a place came up to sell in Ickenham itself, which was where Worsdell and Vintner are now occupying. And so I spent some time going up to London to persuade the owner of English Houses, who were the owners of my where I was working, of my office, to sell them the freehold, which he did for 40,000. And with my friend, by that time I had a friend, Vintner, Barry Vintner, who was operating in Harefield, and he went on to Hatch End as a former. We had 2 offices, and anyway, I persuaded him to sell it to us. I raised a bit of money, and we bought the freehold, and part of the partnership, and I then transferred, of course, into Ickenham, and into those offices. And I stayed there until I retired when I was 95. Incidentally, I'm known I joined the RAF when I was 18 and a quarter. And and it was in April, I think, April 1948, I came out. And I left in 90, I think it was 19, I was born in 1925, 60 years, 85, 1990 when I was 65. I am now 100, I'm now 96. And I've been retired now 30 odd years.
And did you ever get back to Arizona?
Yes. My wife, who was alive then, we used trips with Saga, and one of them was Western America. We went into Arizona, to Phoenix, but I didn't have enough time to go off to Mesa, because you had stopped overnight and you went off. We went from there up to the Grand Canal, and so I never had a chance. So I've been back to Arizona, to Phoenix, but not to Mesa. But fortunately, my daughter, who looks after me now, had a trip in America, and they were, I think they were on the course, but I had Freedom, and they went into Mesa, and that's where they got a lot of the stuff that's over there, which she bought. So I've never been back to Mesa. I was intending to go, having had the invitation to the memorial on the 80th anniversary, but I've since had a stroke, and I would need insurance, and the insurance costs would be prohibitive. And in any event, I couldn't get anybody to go with me. And since then, there have been restrictions, which you can't, nobody can now go.
What would you say to the people that are there at the reunion? What message would you give them, or greeting would you give the people that are...
Well, only to say that I was there, and I did my training there. I was very grateful to the people of Phoenix, because there was, in Phoenix, various houses, one of which was for English people. So we used to go to that particular house on our time off, and they used to welcome us and give us some food and that sort of thing. They were very good, and I would be very thankful for the help that they gave us, gave the English people. And I would probably talk about what I did when I was there. I think it's all gone now. It's all the barracks and where we were. I know the very first thing we had when we got into Phoenix, Mesa, or to the aerodrome, was a lecture on animals that you can find all around the area, because it's all very barren area, and there's all these horrible-looking things which were in cages, and so that if ever you had to force land, you had to keep away from all these animals, you know. But I would have nice to have known. There's nobody there that would remember me. I was there in 1945, which is a long time ago.
Do you remember any excursions that you took while you were there?
I didn't do any excursions, no. We were due to go in the summer. We were due to go to LA, Los Angeles, for a break. But I think the war came, the VJ Day came, and that put an end to that. But we were due to go, and we had a list of a lot of show people were going to entertain us, look after us. But that never came to anything. So there were no excursions. We were exclusively flying training, They didn't do any excursions other than the summer one. Whether they would have done winter ones, I don't know. But I put my name down, and we were due to go to Los Angeles, and but it never came about.
That was a shame. What about the food? What did you think about the food?
Well, those days, if it was edible, it was eaten. Fortunately, I can eat anything, and I have no recollection of food at all. We had a canteen, and we ate in the canteen, but I have no memory of having troubles at all. I ate what was given, and that was it.
And what about oranges? Do you remember the oranges?
There was an orange plantation by the side of the aerodrome, which was completely barren. And then we had a storm. I believe it was July 45, which was a storm I've never seen before. We watched the storm. I must admit, I was quite frightened, really, all the lightning going on in the outside before the actual rain came. Anyway, we had this plantation which was completely barren, an orange plantation. And when the storm finished, I swam along the route of that plantation. It was up to about that high in a matter of, I don't know, minutes. It might have been an hour or two, but it's an awful long time. It's quite high for that. And then within 2 or 3 hours, it's gone. We're back to normal. In that storm, we lost every single steerman. They were big piles. I got photographs of piles of them. But the 86s were all right. There were 1 or 2 little damaged, but not much. They were tethered down, and they succeeded. They weren't affected. So we couldn't fly Stearmans, couldn't complete our flying training until they flew in. And I can remember a sky full of Stearmans coming in, and they were the successes to the damaged aircraft.
What is your best memory of the flying there?
Sorry?
What is the best memory of the flying there? Do you remember an instant when you were flying that stands out to you?
I remember we flew up to 10,000 feet, which was quite high, and you turned the engine off, and we spent about 5 minutes gradually coming down all the time, just completely quiet, couldn't hear a thing, apart from the rush of air over the wings, and that's something I can remember. And then we got low, you turned the engine on, and we took off again. But most of it was general training. It was takeoffs and landings. We did occasionally. Once I think we went on a trip to some place. We had a subsidiary aircraft, aerodrome. We went to that place, had to navigate to get how to get there, and we used to fly there. That was once during our it was about I believe it was 3 months training on the Stearman. But that was the one trip we did. And I don't remember. There weren't any others. That was a training trip, so that we had to learn how to navigate ourselves to there and fly back. Yeah. But that's all I can remember.
Vince, can you think of anything I've forgotten? Let me just look at my handy dandy sheet here. Did you have, oh sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, one pulls across and one, yeah.
That's all right. Just getting the sun off you.
Yeah.
Did you have a family that was assigned to you? Was there a family that was assigned?
Now they had this school. I believe they had this area. There was quite a few flying aerodromes around, and I know that they had a Japanese place. No, it may not have been Japanese. Sorry, a Chinese place, a Canadian place, and a British place, and that's where we used to go. And we were very friendly with the people whose house it was.
And how did you find the American people?
Oh, very, very friendly. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I know our first treat was we went into Arizona, into a booth, and got I think it was a lemon squash or something. Something we didn't have in England, and I remember saying how wonderful it was, and but they were extremely good, absolutely. At no time at all was I ever felt victimised or criticised at all. No. Everything for them. I'm all in favour.
And did they? Does it surprise you that people are still interested in you now?
Yes. Because as I say, I became disillusioned. If I'd have had a commission and the RAF had been my career, I might have had a different view. But coming out as I did in 1948, I washed my hands of what and said, "Oh, well, that's the end of the RAF." You know, I didn't want to, but I really had to because the RAF then was very much old school. They used to whilst a pilot, I've spoken to crew members who went on bombing trips, and they said that the crew was a typical crew, and no matter what your rank was, you were equal to that particular particular job in that aircraft. And so our non-commissioned and commissioned got on well. But once the war was up, once the flight had finished, the non-commissioned went to the sergeant's mess, and the officers went to the officers' mess, and never did they mix. Well, I don't know of any case where they did mix. I found that because when I was training in the RAF, when the issue of commissions was based on who you were, who your father was, what's your education, had nothing really to do with quality as a pilot. I've always got one criticism of the RAF. I reckon if they'd have used mosquitoes before they concentrated on the Lancasters, there wouldn't have been the loss of life. But, well, we're getting on to politicals now, but I do have my reservations. I'm hoping the RAF is a little bit more lenient now than it was then, but I don't know.
Okay. Vince, have I forgotten anything? Is there any other memories you can remember from Falcon Field?
No, I remember going down in the train, the wheel came off, and we spent some time while they put a new wheel on. I think the wheel, I don't know if it's broken or came off, and that's one thing. Another thing else I remember is that when we went through one place in America, we were told to keep on the plane, not go outside, because it was a German area, and they were anti-British, and we had to keep out of the way. You know, don't leave the. We were allowed time to leave the train if we wanted to, but not very many of us did, because no, I was an ordinary, typical trainee pilot. You know.
Do you remember remember anything else about the train and the wheel incident?
The plane,
The train and the wheel incident?
not excepting I can remember getting out of the plane, out of the train, and saying the wheel came off. I think it came off. And that when we were waiting there while they came and fixed it. I don't remember anything else, no. Sorry.
Who are your colleagues that you remember the most, and did they remain friends throughout the years?
Well, there's a chap I've joined up with. You know, you can ask me his name. And I can see his face now, but I need time to remember his name. There was Bill Haylock, who he was on our course, and he went to America, and he wasn't in our group. I was in C group, and he was in D group, and he was in A group or B group, and I didn't have anything to do with him until after the war. There was a reunion of Course 27 held up in London, up in Midlands somewhere. I need time to think about it, but I just went there. When I was there was a Bill and one or two of the other people who had come out of the RAF, and they had formed a group in Missenden. Is Neil Shaw, who had a house, whose parents had a house. Oh, I need time to think about exactly where it is. And we used to go there every year. He used to come over from America every year, and used to sleep in the house. If not, there was a bed and breakfast next door, and that's where we used to go. And I met, and when I went to this reunion, I met with Bill Haylock, and they said they were at this place in oh God, I can't remember. Anyway, my wife and I we went there. We met them outside a pub, queuing up for the opening hours, and we stayed there. And I used to go back every year with them.
And do you remember Catherine's father?
No. No, see, unless you were in, there's only one person. Oh Christ, what's his name? He was a very close friend. Ken Vipond. He was on the, I was the word W. He was a Vipond, and we were on the same flight. No, I don't remember. The only ones I know of are those that after the war met up with Bill Haylock and used to meet. And some of those I got to know. But it's quite good, you know.
Well, perfect. I think, oh, sorry, Vince.
No, it's fine.
I think we're good. I think that was excellent.
Well, it doesn't sound very excellent to me, but I find hard to remember. I know that it was on the A40. Oh, Christ, I can't remember that. Oh.
It's okay. It's okay.